All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking an absolute masterclass in organizational dynamics, pulling right from Patrick Lencioni's modern classic, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And we're going to explore a really fascinating paradox here. Why is it that groups made up of just absolutely brilliant individuals so frequently fail to deliver collective results? Why doesn't hoarding all the top talent automatically guarantee a win? Well, as we'll see in this explainer, teamwork isn't about luck. And honestly, it's not about complex metrics either. It is all about sustained discipline and, surprisingly, vulnerability. Okay, let's dive right into this core question. Why do brilliant teams fail? It's a massive headache for organizations all over the world. You can have the best credentials, the smartest minds in the room, literally all the venture funding in the world, and still fall completely flat. To understand exactly why this happens, we're going to look at a real-world demonstration of this kind of failure through the story of a fictional but honestly incredibly realistic company. Meet Decision Tech. So on paper, this company was an absolute Silicon Valley darling. They had everything a startup could possibly need to completely dominate their market. We're talking an extraordinary executive team with jaw-dropping credentials, cutting-edge tech, abundant capital, and a huge, wide-open market opportunity. But, well, the reality was pretty grim. They were falling way behind their competitors. Revenue was steadily declining, they were continuously missing critical product deadlines, and the core issue? Their incredibly talented executives simply weren't collaborating. They were actually competing against each other under the exact same roof, basically operating as isolated mercenaries instead of a cohesive unit. So to stop the bleeding, the board takes a really drastic step and hires a new CEO. Her name is Katherine Peterson. And right away, the culture clash is obvious. Katherine was in her late 50s, a mature leader coming from a gritty, very traditional manufacturing background. Her executive team, on the other hand, well, they were products of the fast-paced, high-tech startup world. And they were highly skeptical of her. They basically assumed she was completely out of touch with modern tech. Honestly, they probably expected her to come in and force them into trust falls or hand out massive, complex spreadsheets. But instead, she just spent her first few weeks quietly observing their meetings, just watching the subtle political games and tuning in to the underlying interpersonal tone. Now, here is our roadmap for dissecting exactly what Katherine observed, and more importantly, how she fixed it. We're going to start with the Decision Tech team crisis, then move into the behavioral foundation of trust and conflict, follow the action up to commitment and accountability, reach the ultimate goal of results, look closely at the leader's crucial role, and finally, wrap up with some really actionable takeaways for your own team. Section 1. The Decision Tech Team Crisis. So once Katherine realized the immense depth of the dysfunction at this company, she made a pretty surprising move. She didn't lock the executives in a boardroom and start yelling at them about their sales quotas. Nope, she initiated a series of mandatory off-site leadership retreats in Napa Valley. Now, of course, the executives thought this was a complete waste of time, but Katherine knew the company was essentially rotting from the inside out. She laid out the harsh symptoms she had been observing. Despite their individual brilliance, revenue was sinking fast, key deadlines were just blowing past them, and morale was literally in the basement. They weren't a team, they were a group of mercenaries, fiercely guarding their own personal fiefdoms. And to cure these symptoms, Katherine had to introduce them to a whole pyramid of behavioral dysfunctions. Section 2. Foundation, Trust and Conflict. Because you see, team breakdowns don't start at the finish line. They happen from the bottom up. The foundational layer of literally all team breakdown begins with step 1, which is an absence of trust. And this first dysfunction acts as a tripwire, inevitably triggering step 2, a deep fear of conflict. The logic here is simple but incredibly profound. If you do not have trust, you absolutely cannot have productive disagreements. It's just not possible. But we have to ask, what exactly do we mean by trust in a corporate setting? Well, we aren't talking about competency trust. That just means, I trust you know how to code, or I trust you know how to balance a budget. We are talking about something way rarer, vulnerability-based trust. This is the willingness of team members to totally drop their defensive armor. It's having the guts to say, hey, I messed up, or I don't know how to do this, or I need some help, without constantly looking over your shoulder waiting for political repercussions. In most corporate cultures, people project this rigid image of invulnerability. But to break that, the leader actually has to lose face first. Katherine had to create a psychologically safe space to prove that admitting a flaw wouldn't lead to punishment. And when that vulnerability is missing, you get a really stark and dangerous contrast. Teams end up substituting honest communication with artificial harmony. Everyone is just so polite, super guarded, diplomatically ignoring the giant elephant in the room. Real decisions get delayed, and hallway gossip totally takes over. What teams desperately need instead is ideological conflict. And actually, this isn't about personal attacks or mean-spirited arguments. It is passionate, unfiltered, constructive debate focused strictly on ideas, strategies, and operational decisions. Healthy tension is where the real creative breakthroughs actually happen. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds. Action, commitment, and accountability. The logic here is beautifully ruthless. Because team members won't engage in that passionate ideological conflict we were just talking about, they never achieve genuine buy-in. And a failure to buy in leads straight to step 1 in this action phase, a lack of commitment. People will sit there and nod their heads in agreement during the meeting, but they're harboring silent doubts the exact moment they leave the room. And if they aren't truly committed to the plan, they will inevitably slide right into step 2, the avoidance of accountability. I mean, think about it. If they don't believe in the goal in the first place, they certainly aren't going to care enough to enforce the standards. World-class discipline isn't about top-down executive policing. It is all about peer-to-peer accountability. This is the willingness of team members to directly call out their equals when behaviors or performance standards fall short. Let's be honest here. It is incredibly uncomfortable to challenge a colleague directly. Literally nobody wants to be the bad guy. But when team members genuinely care about each other and the shared goal, they simply refuse to let their peers slide into mediocrity. They act as their own referees, maintaining the standard because the mission demands it. Arriving at the peak of the pyramid, Section 4, the ultimate goal, results. So what is the ultimate consequence of those 4 dysfunctions we just uncovered? It leaves us with this complete, tragic picture of team collapse. Let's trace it. Without trust, you fear conflict. Without conflict, you lack commitment. Without commitment, you avoid accountability. And when accountability is just completely gone, individuals naturally shift towards self-preservation, which leads directly to step 5, inattention to results. This is when department heads start hoarding their budgets, engineers focus purely on their personal technical achievements rather than actual product launches, and executives end up caring way more about their own career advancement than whether the company actually wins as a whole. To combat this toxic shift, a true team must possess exactly one shared measurement of ultimate success. Number 1, a single overarching priority that sits above any individual or departmental ego. Because at the end of the day, personal accolades, departmental bonuses, and brilliant individual performances are completely meaningless if the team as a whole fails to achieve its primary objective. Section 5, the leader's crucial role. Let's shift our focus back to Katherine and how a leader must act to actually transform these toxic dynamics. Katherine's objective for those Napa Valley retreats was totally non-negotiable. Her mandate was clear: to repair the broken team dynamics that were destroying the company from within. She understood a fundamental truth that honestly so many managers miss. A leader's primary job isn't just solving technical problems or making every single strategic decision. It is fiercely protecting and nurturing the interpersonal health of the group. Because if the team is healthy, the business problems will get solved. So the crucial point is that the leader has to actively dismantle each dysfunction from the bottom up, step by step. To fix the absence of trust, the leader has to be vulnerable and willing to lose face first, proving to the team that it's safe to be human. To solve the fear of conflict, they must actively mine for implicit disagreements, pulling those silent tensions right out into the open for debate. To cure a lack of commitment, the leader has to push for absolute clarity and enforce strict deadlines. No ambiguous consensus allowed. For the avoidance of accountability, the leader has to step back, encourage peer-to-peer feedback, and intervene only as an absolute last resort. And finally, to fix inattention to results, the leader must ruthlessly ensure that only behaviors contributing to the collective, shared goals are actually rewarded. Section 6. Takeaways for your team. Actionable steps. Let's bring this home and make it concrete for your own collaborative environments. So, how do you accelerate this transformation in your own office? Well, you can start by sharing personal histories and utilizing personality profiles to build that absolutely crucial, vulnerability-based trust. And when it comes to making decisions, practice agreeing to disagree. Striving for 100% consensus is a total trap. You just need 100% commitment once a call is actually made. Also, at the end of every meeting, try using explicit cascading messages so that everyone is completely clear on exactly what is being communicated down the chain of command. And finally, conduct regular public status reviews. This turns peer-to-peer accountability into a standard operational habit, rather than some dreaded dramatic confrontation. To summarize the core pillars of a high-performing team: build vulnerability-based trust, embrace passionate ideological debate about ideas, Foster total commitment through complete, unwavering clarity. Master the incredibly difficult art of peer-to-peer accountability. And finally, maintain a relentless, unwavering focus on collective results. Because true teamwork is an ongoing journey. It requires immense discipline, checking your ego at the door, and just daily courage. I'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on as you look closely at your own workplace dynamics. Is your team truly operating on a solid foundation of vulnerability and trust? Or are you all just quietly surviving on artificial harmony? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to build a profoundly more cohesive and successful team.